Hey there guys, one of the most common requests I get is show another clear on the Empress's resolution. So we're going to be going to the hard mode Morgana Chamber of Vengeance with Melissa. So this is going to be another speed clear and we're going to only be using 5 units. That way you can use that last party slot to rotate in any unit you want and get that turn count mission over time. Now, I'm going to be doing this in 3 turns to show you that it can be done, but if your damage is coming up short, you should definitely extend the clear to either 4 or 5 turns in order to give you time to maximize that morale gauge for more damage. But we're going to do a 5 unit turn 3 clear just to show you the core way it's going to be done. So Melissa is going to be really quick at filling the morale gauge, as well as a big human killer. Kaito is for all the debuffs and fairy killer. Leftia is for the 100 amplify. And then Tsukiko is for the imperil field and a little bit of damage. And then Exdeath is for basically the carry damage. Okay, let's get in here and do a clear. So the first thing is the ambush. The boss is going to do a big imperil on the entire party. We're going to deal with that with Tsukiko. So wait for all the auto casting. Okay, so Tsukiko is going to Omamori to start filling the morale gauge. Purification in order to cure the imperils. And then Maiden's Consecration Fire for a fire imbue, but more importantly a resist buff. Leftia is going to do imbue fire to the party. Elemental Fire on Exdeath, that's the ramping amplify, and then power for the people. Kaito will just triple his breaks, deep and destabilizing, because they fill the morale gauge. Exdeath will magic boost to get ready. And then Melissa is going to triple. We're going to shared immunity for the resist buff, as well as the immunity buffs. Chronic flow for the morale gain. And minutes of might for more morale gain and a stat buff. Okay, so you don't really need a magic tank on this fight if you're doing an OTK strategy and you have some ice resist on the party. Because in phase 1, the only AoE is ice. So with the resist buff, you can just ignore the bosses. You can ignore a magic tank. We don't need one. But you do need a provoker with high resist. I'll show you the gear in a minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue to set up a little bit. Wait for all the autocasting to finish. So we're just going to go ahead and do Kaito to triple break again, Exdeath to magic boost again. Now we're going to use Lefty as LB for the amplify and stat buff. If you're using physical damage dealers, you don't want to use an LB because the boss will get a defense buff. But if you're using mages, a defense buff, we don't care, so limit burst are fine to use. Tsukiko on this turn will just purification. We're going to Prayer of Protection, and we're going to Mandala Fire to put up that field. And then Melissa is going to just triple cast her killers, because they all fill the morale gauge. So we're going to cast all 3 on Exdeath. The Beast and the Dragon doesn't matter, but the Human Killer is obviously important. But the most important thing is just filling the morale gauge. So by doing all of that, we fill the morale gauge to over 150. We're at 165. But as long as we're 150 or higher, we're good, because that unlocks these special breaks for Kaito. And we're going to do that on this turn, because now we're going to burst. And again, if your damage is coming up short, extend it till turn 4 or turn 5 and fill more of the morale gauge. But now Kaito has his special stuff unlocked, so we're going to downpour for the fairy killer, and then deadly stream and natural flux. That's going to break the boss, put up big imperils, big weapon imperils, etc. And now we're ready to kill the boss. And again, if you're coming up short on damage, that last party slot should be a damage dealer. You can rotate just a random damage dealer each time if your gear is not quite as good as the one I'm using, because it is a little tight to OTK on turn 3. So we're going to go ahead and use Meteor with Exdeath. We're going to Scarlet Wave with Leftia and Melissa, just for support chain. And Tsukiko will go ahead and do her fire chaining, which is going to deal a little bit of damage. Most of the damage is coming from Exdeath, but Tsukiko does contribute a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and chain up Exdeath. Wait just a moment for that meteor to fall, and then send our other chainers. And here we go. And boom, there it is. OTK on turn 3. Like I said, the damage is a little tight there. especially with only 5 units. The boss has 3.3 billion, we did 3.4, so it's not a big overkill with only 5 units. You are intended to add a damage dealer in that last party slot to make it very secure. But anyway, there it is. As you can see, Exdeath does the majority of the damage on his own. Tsukiko does contribute a nice chunk. And there it is. There is the 3-turn OTK 5-unit clear with, with Exdeath, but enabled by Melissa, because this party needed her killer buff, and we needed to fill the morale gauge very quickly to do it in that turn limit. So let me go ahead and show you the gear that we used and all. And you can rotate a damage dealer each clear, and until you get your 12-turn clear in. All right, let's see here. So we've got, Exdeath is the big carry here. He's geared very well. So 11,340 magic, 5626 MP, sword build, there it is, magic boost. And the whole party has 80 or better ice resist, because we're using a 70 resist buff from Melissa. So everyone in the party needs to have 80 or better ice, and we're getting that from Cool Beauty on Exdeath. And then the Meteor card. And his killers are maxed out on Human and 200 Fairy. Couldn't quite cap them all, but, close enough. Kaito in the Shift form is dual wielding a Morale card. Make sure he's wearing his Trust Mastery or his STMR, otherwise his special breaks will not unlock. He needs to have his Trust passive activated. Other than that, a little bit of ice resist. Melissa is our provoker. Really, you can have anyone the provoker, it doesn't really matter, but they're going to want really high resistance across the board. You're going to want, what do you need? I think 250 to ice and light, and then like 150 to all the rest after a buff. I don't know, I just geared her for high resistances. You don't need that much, but there you go. And she is full evasion passive provoke, and she is death immune. If you use a limit burst, the boss counters with a single target death. It can be immune, so make sure your provoker is death immune if you're using an LB. And we gave her Scarlet Wave for support chaining. That's not required. If you can't fit that with all the resist gear, you don't need Scarlet Wave. And then we're dual wielding a Morale card with Sylvie's card, dual wield. Leftia is using Morale Gain, Peppermint Rod, what's your girl's name? Melissa's card for more morale gain. I couldn't talk. Her own special helmet, and then just clash gear, and there we go. Scarlet Wave to support chain, and she's got 80 or better ice resist. And then Tsukiko in the base form, morale stuff. Treasured Ring, Obsidian Bracer. Now I do realize I'm using the rod for a quest to get the rod, but again, if you can't do it on turn 3, just do it on turn 4. Take an extra turn to build more morale gain. But for the purposes of the video, I wanted to show the speediest possible. And then there we go. And then Shift form, damage. Just damage versus evocation. And there it is. And she had some resistance, some ice resist. There's the 3-turn clear with Melissa and Exdeath. The next power creep unit we get, I guess we'll do another clear. Hopefully at some point we can bring it down to a 2-turn clear. That'd be fun. But I think at this point, with only 5 units, a 2-turn clear may be doable. I don't know. It would probably require a double meteor unit, so I would need either a friend or my own second dazzling card, which I don't have. So, yeah. Anyway, see you in a bit.